Hello, all you awesome community managers. I'm Carmen, the community coach, and today I'm going to talk about awesome Web3 community tools and platforms. This is going to be a huge video. There's a ton of tools and platforms out there, but let me break it down and talk about some of the most popular tools that Web3 community managers are using right now. I'm going to break it down in the following categories. Community platforms. Where are conversations taking place where Web3 members are chatting with each other in real time, along with async conversations? Community discovery tools. How are members actually finding these Web3 communities? Gated community tools. How are you keeping the right people in the community and the wrong people out? Event tools. How are community managers organizing events for their Web3 communities? Community management tools. I'm talking the real tools that community managers are using every day to help them with their jobs. And lastly, community member engagement. What tools are being used to reward and acknowledge your community members? There's a lot of tools that I'm going to be mentioning in this video. So with that in mind, let's get started. All right, let's start with community platforms. Where are all the Web3 people hanging out in real time? We have three primary platforms. Discord is the first. You may be a member of many servers like I am. This is definitely one of the most popular platforms that are currently used, especially in the NFT space. That doesn't mean it's the best community experience. I think there's a lot that you can do to properly set up your Discord server to ensure that you get a great onboarding experience. But yeah, this is definitely one of the most popular platforms for Web3 communities. Then we have Twitter. There is a ton of stuff going on Twitter within the Web3 space. This is definitely one where you can see a lot of conversations. It's very engaged. A lot of people jump onto the Twitter spaces and have real-time conversations, and they also reply and comment on people's threads. Definitely another popular Web3 community platform. And we also have Telegram, which you can have 200,000 people in a Telegram. I don't know, I'm a little less crazy about this, but there's definitely groups that are in Web3 space that are on Telegram, and some people absolutely love it. Just keep that in mind. If you're not on Telegram, make sure to check it out. It's also a popular Web3 community platform. So that's on the synchronous side, but now let's talk about the asynchronous side. There are also community platforms where people aren't chatting in real time like they do on Discord, but they are still having conversations, and it's typically with more threaded communications. Think forums, basically. So you've got Reddit. There's a lot of conversations that take place on Reddit for the Web3 space. Another platform that's used is Discourse. Discourse was actually a platform that was popular in Web2 world, and I'm seeing Web3 communities use it also. I love how they call it civilized discussions for your community. And again, these are the types of platforms where you can discuss in a space that's less chaotic. We all know that in the Discord servers, messages get lost and it's just information overload. So these types of platforms like Discourse are being used to create more meaningful conversations and interactions between community members. And we also have Islands.xyz. I actually mentioned this platform in a previous video. This is probably the most Web3 version of a community platform that does have some really cool integrations, such as integrating your NFT storefront. But you can see that there's a lot of discussions here. I love the Pinterest style. It's just another way for community members to connect with each other and discuss some important topics. Now, I've listed a few platforms here. There's obviously many more out there, but I'm really looking at the most popular ones that I've noticed. Let me know in the comments below if you've seen a platform that's popped up that you think I should be looking at, or that other people that are looking to build their communities should be made aware of. I'd love to hear your suggestions here. All right, now let's talk community discovery tools. Community discovery is so important. How are people going to actually find your community? Let's take a look at some of the major ways that people in the Web3 space actually find new communities to join. So Opensea is one of the biggest marketplaces. You can mint and sell your NFTs and buy NFTs here. This is definitely one of the most popular platforms. There are a ton of other marketplaces like Looks Rare, Rareable, Foundation, Super Rare. I'm just going to use Opensea as the example here, but you can see that when we look at the stats and the rankings, there's a whole bunch of collections here. And I guarantee you that people are looking through these collections and potentially joining the community if they're interested in it. They can join the community by clicking on the Discord link right here, and also follow the Twitter space and go to their website. So just keep that in mind. These marketplaces are a great way for future potential community members to explore all these different collections and check out what other communities exist. Another platform that's great for community discovery is Rarity.tools. And I know that not all the NFT collections actually apply to list on Rarity.tools, but obviously for some projects, it's important that they are listed on a platform like Rarity.tools. You can see again, we've got the discovery section here with all the top collections, and I can just explore all the different ones coming up. I can also look at upcoming NFTs. It's got the links to the Discord. So again, this is a really great way for people to find certain projects that they may be interested in joining the community. Now, there's also obviously Twitter. So Twitter is incredible for discovering new projects. People like, they retweet, they comment. It generally has a pretty organic vibe about it. You can obviously advertise as well. You do see those sponsored posts, but I actually think that if you can tap into the actual community on Twitter, that is such a better strategy for you, honestly. Here's a unique way that people are discovering new communities in Web3. Going to the protocols. So for instance, I've clicked on the Uniswap protocol website here. And I think what's really cool, and this is so part of the Web3 space, is there's such an emphasis on community. So here you've got the Uniswap community. It's an ecosystem of users, developers, designers, and educators. But the really cool thing is they actually list people that are part of the community. I'm on the Uniswap ecosystem and they're saying explore it. So I could take a look at all these different options, like the Rainbow Wallet, for instance, and Alpha Finance or Paraswap. I mean, there's just a ton of different players in this space. It's a great way to explore other potential communities out there in the Web3 space. Most of these players will have their own communities. And so it's a great way for other people in the space to learn about each other. And then let's not forget about the traditional directories. They also exist in Web3. So I looked up a DAO directory and I found this discoverdals.com. It has a list of all the different types of DAOs. How cool is this? You've got the social DAO, service, protocol, and yeah, there's tons of different DAOs, and I can go through, take a look through all these different DAOs that exist and then potentially join their community. I'm definitely creating another video on Nouns DAO, by the way, because I think it's just the coolest project ever. Make sure to like and subscribe to my channel and be notified when that video comes out. Speaking about YouTube, it's also another platform that can be used for community discovery. I've just, for instance, searched for doodles, and you can see that you've got all these amazing videos by YouTubers. Oh, the Nifty Alpha, by the way, is an awesome way to explore and find out more about communities. So I should actually add influencers. I don't know whether the Nifty Alpha wants to be considered as influencers, but I think that there's definitely people in the space that are helping with the community discovery. All right, let's now talk about gated community tools. So how do you keep people out that you don't want in your community? And how do you ensure that the right people are in your community? How can they verify themselves? This is where Web3 shines. So let's take a look at some of the awesome community tools that the Web3 players are using. So I think for the most popular to start, Collabland. If you're in the Web3 space, I'm sure you've heard about this bot. You can use Collabland to connect your bot to Telegram or Discord, and then ensure that they have to hold a certain token for them to be allowed to join the community. Great thing is that if they sell that token, then the bot boots them out. So how great is that for a community manager? They don't have to keep a list of the people that should be in the community and constantly updating it. This is such a great update in the Web3 world. Really cool part about this bot as well is that you can create tiers. So you can have a hierarchy of your super fans within your community and encourage them to move up on the tier by offering exclusive content to them and opportunities. So that's just another great aspect about Collabland. Another cool tool/platform is fan circles. I've just heard about this one recently. It's another way to gate content to NFT holders or subscribers. The great thing about this is I know that some of my clients, and I hear conversations around wanting to own their own community and they want to have more ownership around that platform. So this could be a really interesting alternative. It's a free platform for all fans with subscription options. So you could also have a free section and a premium. I think that's super cool that you can connect your NFT holders with their real identities. You can also arrange airdrops, utility distribution, share live broadcasts, sell merch and tickets. Sounds like these guys are really offering a ton of value here. I couldn't see their prices on their website. They do have a web platform and a mobile app, which they say is used by 92% of fans. I think this really is an option for those that have already got a fan network or a community that's built and they're looking to take it to the next stage and token gate and create the Web3 version of their community by issuing NFTs and continuing to reach out to their current network of fans. For an alternative to Collabland, I am hearing more about AtlasBot. I think this one looks a little bit more technical, but it certainly is nice to see that more and more solutions are being built. This bot looks like you can take customization to a whole new planet, they say. I'm really excited to see this one evolve over time. Or another tool, Coinvise. I love how they call it communities with superpowers. That's pretty much Web3 in general. It's like, how do we elevate this to the next level? This tool is for creators to build and operate tokenized communities. You can create a personal or community token. You can import a token as well. You can create customized claim pages. Create membership tiers is coming soon. To get started, you do have to connect your wallet and then you can go ahead and create a token. It's crazy to think that you could do this so easily now. All right, and lastly, we have Guilds.xyz. This is where you can manage roles in your community based on tokens, NFTs, whitelists, POAPs. How cool is that? You can actually use your POAPs to assign different roles for your community members. I think that's just super exciting because I think a lot of people question, well, how can I use a POAP? Well, like, what does POAP even mean? I've got like POAPs in my POAP wallet, but I don't know what to do with that now. So I love to see that POAPs are being mentioned as having more utility. Guild has a ton of information around how do you actually create your guild and onboard your community. You can create a new Discord server. Currently, Guild is a tool that integrates into Discord, or you can also use it to gate a Telegram group. The cool thing is Guild is going platform agnostic. So they're looking at 30 plus platform integrations coming this year. People are busy in Web3, but if you go to their docs, there's a ton of help and support here around how do you actually gate your Discord server or your Telegram. Now let's talk about event tools. How do you host your Web3 event? What are some cool tools that people are using to host their Web3 event? Well, I have to mention Twitter Spaces because a lot of conversations are happening in Twitter Spaces. It's obviously audio, so you don't get video, but you have a tool where people feel pretty safe to talk, to be honest. And if they don't want to talk, they can listen. It's super accessible. It's so easy to jump into a Twitter space if you're on Twitter. It's great for discovery as well, because you could just jump into a space very randomly and learn something new. You can encourage people to jump on the stage as well and share the mic. You can invite to co-host. You do have trolls, so that is something that does have to be managed, but you have trolls everywhere. What I do love is that you can share relevant tweets directly within the space, and I think this is really what elevated Twitter over other tools such as Clubhouse, which I believe is still running. I haven't been on Clubhouse for a while. There's too much going on Twitter. Twitter really won the game. It's because there was no limit to the number of tweets you can add as well. anyone who speaks in the space can add their tweet, and it really takes the conversation from just an audio only experience to something where, well, if I'm on my phone, I can also click on a link, read more, or follow them on Twitter for future conversations, etc. So I think that just really elevates the event space to the next level. You can also have Discord parties. I actually encourage people to consider multi-platform. So if there's people on Twitter, that's awesome. But, Discord also has an audio capability, so you can stream to Discord as well. Now let's look at the metaverse, because this is a very cool aspect of Web3. Why not host your event in the metaverse? I've definitely seen some really cool parties. I think it's going to get better and better. Just remember, we're early on this. So if you think, it doesn't actually look that cool, or it looks a little geeky, I think you should play around with this, because it's going to get better and better and better. And the more creative you are, you could really create a very unique experience for your community members. So we have the big ones like Decentraland, which I've obviously covered in a previous video. I'll link that below. I've also seen people use crypto voxels for hosting events. It's also a really cool metaverse that you can take a look at. You obviously have Sandbox as well. So that's another place that you can host an event if you have land. You need land in all of these places. Pick the one that you like the most and host a community event. Another cool tool for events is POAPs. I've also spoken about this in a previous video. These are the digital memento tickets. It's like the I've been here sticker that a community member can mint as an NFT and really celebrate those moments that are shared as a community. These really took off. I'm really impressed with how popular POAPs have become. I think the next step is utility. So what does this actually mean? What do these POAPs provide? You want to make sure that you're offering value to your community members. And tools like Guild.xyz that I mentioned, where you could potentially manage roles in your community based on tokens or your POAPs, I think could really get very interesting in future. Definitely worth taking a look at POAPs. It's pretty easy to get this set up. It's open source, this tool, and it's community owned. What's not to love about that in the Web3 world? All right, another event tool that I've recently heard about is called Kickback. And I think this is really cool because a lot of community managers will tell you that they struggle with no-shows at events. And this is not just in Web3 world, this is in Web2 as well. You could have 1,000 people RSVP and only 100 show up. You may have put extra resources to deal with the potential numbers only to be disappointed with the percentage of no-shows. So this is where this tool gets really interesting. It's an Ethereum-based event management service that really addresses this no-show issue by making participants commit a small amount of ETH when they RSVP. So that's kind of, I hear you say, well, that's similar to just charging a ticket price, but here's where it gets even more interesting. If you don't show, you lose your ETH, but the people that do show up, they gain the ETH. How cool is that? So you are actually rewarding people that are attending, that are putting in the effort. The people that are rewarding them are the people that don't show up. I think it's a really interesting tool, and it could be something that you could play around with and have fun with. It's especially useful for those who are frustrated with no-shows, especially if it has a financial kickback for yourselves, if you are planning for events and people don't show up. Very simple incentivization model. I think if you've got the right event where people are motivated to join in the first place, this is where this could really shine. Their pricing is really simple. So they have a $1 per one person that turns up. So you're only paying for the people that actually attend the event. They also have options if you don't think that's affordable. Obviously, it depends on how many participants you're looking to host. It's a cool tool. Yeah, I'm excited to hear how this one goes. What a cool community experiment. All right, here's another Web3 event platform. It's called Beam.xyz. It's a video streaming platform for creators, communities, and brands. If you're hosting free events, then it's free for you to host it. And for paid events, they take 15%. I love this transparent revenue sharing that they have. You can take crypto payments for your events. There's token gating, ticketing, tipping, and donations. It's clearly very Web3 friendly because you can use your favorite coin or NFT collection to gate the content. or events and accept payments as well in your own community coin. They have several chains that are available currently, and more chains will be made available. You can mint your own videos in this platform in future, and I'm loving some of these coordination tools that they're including here. All right, now it's time to talk about the daily tools that community managers actually use. And I'm calling these the sort of like communication tools. The first one is Canva. In reality, a lot of community managers have to create graphics, infographics, flyers, all sorts of just cool graphics. And maybe it's not the community manager's job. A lot of the times you do have graphics teams. And oh my gosh, I've got to admit, when you have a graphics designer to help you out as a community manager, it is heaven. It is absolute heaven. But I know that the reality is a lot of community managers are creating graphics. I did that a lot when I started out. Canva's great. Can obviously use the Adobe Suite or Procreate or other graphics platforms, other graphics tools. I just know a lot of community managers want to mock something up really quickly and make it look awesome as well. They've got so many templates that you can choose from and just get started. All right, the second tool I want to talk about is Snapshot. I've created a whole video just on this tool. This is one of the most awesome Web3 tools for community voting that I've seen. You can see that there's a ton of big players that use Snapshot in the Web3 space. It really is a great way to collect feedback from your community in real time, help make key decisions. And we all know that Web3 is community led. So this is really a very important tool that a lot of community managers will be using to help them make these big decisions for the projects. These are really real. You can see here, Sushi had one literally talking about who should own the Discord server. So you can see here it was currently under somebody else and that person resigned. These are real issues that happen. But usually in Web2 world, that would be something that internally at a company, those decisions would be made as to who would own the Discord server. We're talking Web3. No, the community has to have a say as to who actually should own the Discord server and avoid it being stuck in limbo forever. This is an incredible tool, and I'll link to the video below as I went through this tool in further detail. In this section, I also want to talk about tools that are used by community managers to organize all the information and create pretty much like a database or a library. It might be a nicer way to think about it rather than a database. When you've got platforms like Discord and Telegram, a lot of information gets lost. Yes, you can pin conversations to Discord, but I mean, how many people are scrolling through all those pinned messages? You need a publishing site, generally speaking, and these are the top 3 publishing sites that I'm seeing in the Web3 community space. You have Rarity.tools. The great thing about Mirror is that there's plenty of plugins to completely supercharge this concept of having a library. You can actually launch a crowdfund if you wanted to. You can release NFT editions within Mirror. You can embed NFTs, which is awesome. We're talking, this is super Web3 friendly. You can split up direct proceeds to collaborators, which I think, again, when we're talking about Web3 and getting the community involved and acknowledging the community, that's important. You can also drop tokens. I love this statement by Mirror. It says, on Mirror, you aren't the product, you're the owner. That's very important to people in the Web3 world. So the Web3 plugins were only made available in February this year, so it's still very new, but there's some really, really exciting developments with the Mirror platform. An alternative to Mirror that other people in the Web3 space are using is Notion. Notion is one of those beloved tools loved by Web2 people and Web3. You can customize a lot. I know some Notion ninjas and they're amazing. And the stuff that they've created with Notion is just out of this world. When we're talking about collaboration and connecting people together, really coming together as a community to achieve incredible things, Notion could be a great platform for you to consider. There's just a ton of ways that you can customize Notion to make it work for you. And it's drag and drop. It's easy. You don't need to code. There's templates that you can go ahead and use. I've seen community managers even plan their entire community management strategy using using Notion, calendars and things like that. I think it's worth taking a look through the template gallery to be inspired as well as to what you can create using Notion. I just love the fact that you can create your own branding with it as well. When I talk about the community member experience, you want to make sure that if they're moving from Discord to Twitter to Notion or whatever the platform and tool is that they're using, I want to stress that it's important that they don't feel like they're in a different space that doesn't belong as part of your community. If you look at something like Doodles, for instance, they've been really mindful about branding and making sure it's consistent across everything that they do. And then you also have GitHub Wiki, or GitHub Docs. I'm seeing this a lot actually in the Web3 space. It's a great way to set up collaborative docs, especially for people that are more technical and they work in a tool such as GitHub. It makes sense that you do have a GitHub Docs as supporting documentation. Here's an example of Developer DAO and how they've used GitHub Docs. You can create headings, sections, links, you can add emojis. This is a library and it works for certain types of communities. All right, lastly, let's look at some awesome Web3 engagement tools. So I'm seeing more around bounties and tips. And I think in the Web2 community management space, we actually avoided too much around the extrinsic rewards, like giving money to people to encourage them to actually get involved and participate in community. We preferred more of the intrinsic motivations that are just like deeper and more meaningful to people. But having said that, in Web3, what I think is really cool, you're actually building organization with the community. So it makes sense they should be recognized and rewarded in a more financial way. It's just completely looking at companies from a different perspective, and I'm excited for that. Let's take a look at some of the bounties platform and ways that we can actually reward community members in ways that speak to them. So the first is Coordinate. Those in the DAO space, they're looking for tools. How do you reward people in the DAO that contribute? How do you actually practically reward them without having somebody be responsible for all the funds in the community? Coordinate can come in and help DAOs with this. They have this concept called gift circles, which allows DAO members to collectively reward each other. And it makes all the payments super transparent and equitable. And yeah, so I think that's really neat. It's like your colleagues in a company being like, hey, Jim, you did such a great job on that project and you've made all our lives better. So here's the money. Rewarding people where reward is due. In my mind, I also think, does it necessarily have to be money? Maybe it could just be rewarding them with like these so-called tokens that actually aren't tied to money, but maybe it means something else. Maybe they get other utility from that. So I know a lot of people aren't necessarily just motivated by money. I think this is a really cool tool. You can incentivize participation, recognizing each other's values. I love the transparency component as well, where everybody can see what everybody's got. Seems like a more scalable solution. They've got some great partners here. They've got a whole doc section to help you get started, how to actually start your own circle to distribute resources fairly across all the different contributors that you may have. It's the toughest part with DAOs is decentralized collaboration. Collaboration in general is tough. And then when you add to it the fact that you've probably got people based all around the world and you're trying to engage these people and get them to actually contribute to your DAO, I think this is where this tool could become very, very useful. It's resource distribution. Plenty of resources here for you to find out more. Check out their docs. Now, another alternative tool to Coordinate is SourceCred. Again, it's really looking at how to measure the participants' contributions. What I think is really cool about SourceCred is they talk about tangible and intangible contributions and then reward those individuals fairly for the value that they bring. Their goal is to empower marginalized people and or communities. So that's just an epic goal in itself. They say that the most radical aspect about SourceCred is that it rewards contributions instead of simply contributors. You don't need to throw in the money, for instance. And the way that it works is they have this concept called cred, which is a score which is earned by making contributions to a project. The score is reflected by how valuable their contributions were to the projects, and then they're rewarded accordingly with a digital currency based on their cred. I think it's pretty cool that they've played on the word like cred, like street cred. So I think it's actually a concept that people understand. They mention that a participant's cred score is like their reputation. It's something that's associated with members in the community, but it's not an asset. You can't transfer it over. You can't buy cred and you can't sell it. And it's something that can get updated over time. So cred is computed by an algorithm. It's open source. All the data and parameters are public. So everything is transparent. They go into more detail around how they calculate cred, and they go through something called the contribution graph. It gets super technical. I could geek out on this. I always say with data, it's like rubbish in, rubbish out. So you could have like the best tool ever, but you need the data to actually get the most out of the tool. So they mentioned that source cred to work, it needs data on what contributions exist and how they're connected. They go through a lot more of this in detail, and I'll leave it for you to take a look if you're interested in source cred. The last tool I want to look at is tip.cc. So you can send anybody in Discord a tip to thank them for their contributions. I think this is just so beautiful because obviously, again, we're looking at money, and I know that, community managers, we don't love the whole concept of money. It can completely change the dynamic around community. But again, I'm thinking about this from the concept, actually, not just, oh, great, I can now tip someone in Ethereum. I love the concept of like, how do we make this even more intrinsic in future? But at the end of the day, there are people that do deserve to get paid as well, and they do deserve to be recognized in monetary form for their contributions. And I think that this is where a tool like TipCC could be really useful. I believe there's a Web3 community called Forefront. It's a newsletter, and they actually encourage their community members to write and contribute to the newsletter. And in return, people get tipped to thank them for their contributions, for their writing. And I love that concept of it's a truly community-led newsletter. The great thing is there's no minimums or fees on the tips, and you can tip multiple users at the same time, no transaction fees. You can make airdrops, rains, and other community engaging activities. This is where I think, this gets interesting, because again, what are we talking about here with airdrop? To me, this is where we're moving away from just like, okay, here's some cryptocurrency, and like, let's actually dig deeper into the true motivations as to why people are there. You can host really fun games. I talk about this a lot, where a lot of communities, actually, the members want to have fun. They want to connect with people, but they also want to have fun. It's not for all communities. Not all communities are created for having fun. But there's definitely an element where that is missed with a lot of communities that I see, and they could be having more fun, and it would encourage more engagement with the members. I love that with TipCC, you can actually engage with users with these airdrops, and they have these really fun ideas like guess that tune. I think that's awesome for music NFTs. I feel like Spotty Wi-Fi, who is the crypto punk rapper, should be considering TipCC, and it's a community of people that are passionate about music and changing the game for music. So why not? It seems really simple to get started with this bot. It is a bot. It's actually a Discord bot. I should have mentioned that. Just very simple and easy for actual members in the community to get started and tip. Again, not necessarily the bot for every community, but I'm putting it out there because I'm seeing some Web3 communities use this bot, and I think it's really cool. Now, there's a ton of tools that I have thrown your way. I wanted to mention another platform that I had noticed that I think is super cool, could be really interesting in future. It's still early days, and I know that when we talk about Web3 anyway, it's all early, but there's this platform called XMTP. They're really looking to build what they call the standard communication protocol for Web3 together. They've got a ton of incredible people that are involved in this project. But what I think is really cool is they're looking to build a way to communicate between existing crypto wallets. And they're calling it the next iteration of the web. They're saying it's a new protocol that connects communities, creators, protocols, applications, and users. So they're saying that today's messaging platforms are walled off and centrally controlled. Email is broken. We all agree with that. Chat apps are rife with scams and spams. And we talk about how Discord even is not perfect. And I think this is a really super cool concept. And I wanted to end this video mentioning this because it's exciting. We're seeing all these new tools and platforms evolve over time with huge missions. With XMTP, they're saying they want to build a better way for the world to communicate. as a community manager, I think we should be feeling really excited about that. Anything that helps us communicate better is a win in my book.